Hi, I'm Melissa Chalker, Executive Director of the New Jersey Foundation for Aging. Welcome to Aging Insights. Aging Insights is a production of the New Jersey Foundation for Aging. NJFA's mission is to improve aging in New Jersey and help older adults live in the community of their choice. Aging Insights is supported through sponsorships and viewer donations. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor, please go to our website at www.njfoundationforaging.org or call us in the office at 609-421-0206 for more information. There was a time when 2020 was something we talked about or planned for. However, the reality is 2020 is almost upon us. And while I'm sure there will be many things happening in our country next year, one thing to pay particular attention to is the 2020 census. Mandated by the U.S. Constitution, every 10 years, the federal government endeavors to count every person living in the United States. For many purposes, which we'll discuss today with our guests, I'm happy to be joined by Jeff Baylor, Director of the New York Regional Office of the U.S. Census Bureau, and New Jersey Secretary of State, Tahisha Wei. Welcome to both of you, and thank you so much for taking time to come and talk to us about this really important topic. So I guess we want to start at the very top with the very basics, and what is the census?
Thank you for this opportunity. As you mentioned, Article 1, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution mandates that we conduct a head count as well as a count of all the housing units across the United States every 10 years, and 2020 is the next census.
Yeah. And so, when will it happen, and what can we expect for, what should folks know about 2020 census coming?
Yeah, the 2020 census actually already started, and there'll be 4 ways to be counted in 2020. Online, first time ever, we're going to allow individuals to fill out their census response online. So we're really excited about that. New technology, new way to do things.
Yeah. So this is really exciting because, as here we are in 2019, and as you said, things are already starting with preparations. And but in March of 2020, people can expect that they will really be ramping up to start collecting data, and that there are 4 ways that your data can be collected. So walk us through those 4 ways.
Yeah, that's correct. As I mentioned, online, it'll be the first time ever online, both in English as well as 12 non-English languages will be available online. For the first time ever, we've always had a toll-free telephone support operation, but this will be the first decade, this will be the first census in which a household can call their information over the phone. So we're not doing outbound calling, but a household could call us. And again, that will be supported in English and 12 non-English languages. For those households that want to fill it out on paper, because that's the way they've always done it, they'll have that opportunity as well. And then finally, the 4th and final way is starting in May of 2020. If a household has not submitted their census response, we'll send teams of enumerators to go and knock on doors and ask the very same information that's available online, over the phone, or on paper. And
for folks that might not know, an enumerator is someone hired by the Census Bureau to come physically to your door and collect information, right?
That's correct. That's a federal employee.
Yeah. And it's interesting, you say, for the first time that it'll be available online, and people say, oh, really, for the first time? But if you think about it, the last time the census was collected was, what, 2010?
2010.
So,
right.
I mean, a lot has changed technology-wise in 10 years, right? So this is the first time that people can do this online, and as you said, the phone option as well. In addition to support, they can call and actually give their responses.
That's correct.
That's, great that there are multiple ways, because we want to make sure that everybody participates, and we'll get to some of the reasons for that in a while. But let's start out by talking about why the census is so important.
Sure. So at a federal level, over $675 billion of federal funding is disseminated every year to communities throughout the nation. So we're talking programs like Head Start, National School Lunch Programs, Section 8 housing, Medicaid, very important programs that touch communities all throughout the state of New Jersey.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned throughout the state of New Jersey, because we are lucky also to be joined by Secretary Wei. And, Jeff has just mentioned the billions of federal dollars that, come out of the census collection, and that data is used to disseminate those funds. And so what does that mean for New Jersey, and what type of impact does this have if people participate in the census in New Jersey?
Yes, Jeff is correct, and thank you again, Melissa, for having us about this important issue. I want to first start that, of course, we understand that congressional representation is also at stake, but here in New Jersey, we have an estimated $22 billion in federal funding of, I want to say, 55 federal programs which are at stake. And if I just could walk you through some examples, because again, this is a very important measure which we all want to partake in to ensure that every person is counted here in this state. So approximately $1.5 billion federal dollars is at stake in terms of our transportation and highway infrastructure. Then if we look at our meals for our seniors and for the disabled, we have an estimated $80 million in federal funds which are in play. And again, in terms of health care, such as Medicaid and Medicare, a combined estimation of about $12 billion. So that is why the census is very much important to everyone who is a resident of New Jersey.
Yeah, we think of it as a federal tool, and it is, but that really dictates the funding that comes for programs and services that are really important to the people that live in New Jersey. And so we want to make sure we're encouraging everyone, especially our population here in New Jersey, to participate in the census.
And I have to add that what is also integral, I was a former Passaic County freeholder, and one of my responsibilities was overseeing senior services. So I say this just because we all know that federal funds are also tied with our senior service centers. So everyone would want to be aware and understanding of the importance of those needs. I do recall I'm a mom of 4, and I remember those fond moments of attending holiday parties at the senior service center and all the good that is brought out. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's a really important reminder for our audience that, any type of federal funding that the state receives does then get distributed locally, and, lots of folks make those decisions and bring services right down to the local level, county and municipal level. So, these are not just dollars that are coming to the state to be used by the state government, but that then get distributed locally as well. So I think that's a great reminder for our audience about that. So we know that this is really important, and there's federal funds tied to it that help people across the country and right here in our own state. I did want to get back just quickly to the different ways that people can participate in the census, because as we know, anytime there's something new going on or ways that we can collect data, there are people out there who are ready and willing to scam you out of your money somehow by using this great tool as a front for a scam. So what are some concerns about scams related to the census, and what should people know and look for in protecting themselves as they seek out completing the census?
Yeah, there's a couple things. And first off, the Census Bureau is out there knocking on doors every day of every year. We collect a lot of important economic indicators for this nation, such as the unemployment rate that comes out the first Friday of each month. So they may get a knock on a door this year, it may be early next year, and we ask them to reach out to us if they have questions. To let them know that the Census Bureau is not just, we don't just work on the decennial census, but our ongoing survey work as well. So a couple of things, both with our ongoing survey work and the 2020 census, we never ask for Social Security number. We never ask for bank account or checking account information, and we never ask for money. Those are typically the things we've seen in the past. Organizations will use the word census at the top of their survey form and send it out, and they may say at the bottom, please include your check for $20. I want to stress that we will never do that at the census. We have a website, 2020census.gov. On there's also a toll-free number you can reach out. If you have any questions or concern, reach out to us. We'll do the legwork. We'll let you know whether or not it's a legitimate survey. It could be one of our surveys or another survey organization, but please reach out to us. And but if you do see anything that asks for your Social Security number or asks for money in relation to the census, it is a scam.
Right. And we always want to be really clear with our audience and make sure they understand all the ins and outs of what's to be expected and what's not. So I really appreciate the specifics you've given, that they can anticipate that someone might knock on their door to verify information or ask them a question. And that, sometimes we tell people to be cautious of people that are coming door to door. And so what is a way that they can assure the person that's knocking on their door is someone who is representing the U.S. Census Bureau? Yeah,
absolutely. So all of our federal employees will have a federal ID, a picture badge. They will also be carrying a laptop. They'll have a briefcase with the census logo on it. But again, if they have any questions or concerns, don't give out any information. Call the toll-free number to reach out to us. We'll do employment verification. We'll let you know that, yes, indeed, you are in a survey or it is part of the 2020 census.
It's great to know that they can ask for that person for ID if someone does show up at
correct.
their door, and that they should never anticipate that anyone representing the U.S. Census Bureau will ask them for their social security number or any personal identifying information like bank account information
correct,
and those sort of
yep.
things. I just like to restate those things and make sure people understand clearly that that's
important,
something they should not be giving out to anyone, and that if someone's asking for that, they likely may not be representing the census and may be
That's correct.
part of a scam, and so to watch out for that. And so good to know that the website as well, again, if you would say that it's
2020census.gov.
.gov, great. Because the other thing is people go online and they Google something and they click on the first link and it might not be the right link.
That's
so I
right.
like to remind people to look for that .gov because that means you're getting a government website, and so you want to be careful
That's correct.
on the internet too. It's a very great place to go for knowledge, but it's also a very scary place, the internet. So we like to remind people the ways to make sure they're getting legitimate information online as well. So this is really great. It's, we do want to make sure people are participating in the census. So let's talk a little bit about why. We talked about the funding and those sort of things. So what are some ways, we can start with the federal government and then talk state specific, what are some of the ways we are encouraging people to make sure everyone gets counted?
Yeah, we're working with community-based organizations throughout the New York region, throughout the state of New Jersey, to ensure they understand that the census is safe, that the census is easy, and then why the census is so important for them. So what we're finding is it's those local leaders, it's the church leaders, it's the business owners, it's the restaurant owners. They're the trusted voices. So when we look to those communities that we consider hard to count, whether it's renters or foreign-born or languages other than English spoken at home, families with children under the age of 5, those are all typically what we consider hard to count communities. So we're finding those trusted voices, learning what the motivation is to ensure we get the most complete and accurate count.
I'm glad you mentioned that phrase hard to count and included those populations, because there are particular, sometimes difficult people to reach. And so it's nice to know that there are some initiatives to figure out how it's best to reach those people that typically might not respond to the census. And so what are some ways you're connecting with those local community leaders that you mentioned in order to spread the word?
Yeah, right now one of the things we're doing our job fairs. That's the one thing partners can be active in right now, is helping their community members apply for a job. Similar to responding to the census online, the way you fill out an application to work for the census is also online. So we're working with libraries and colleges and universities throughout the state. They're opening up their doors, making it easy for their community members to come in, and we're providing that one-on-one technical support if anyone has any challenges or issues in applying for a census job.
Yeah. I think that's important to know, that this is not only about making sure everyone participates in the census, but that this is also a job opportunity for some people, and for temporary employment, is that?
The majority are part-time temporary jobs. We're looking to recruit over 50,000 people in the state of New Jersey for the 2020 census.
People are watching and they're interested in a temporary part-time position. They can, is there information on the 2020 census website?
Yeah, absolutely. They can go online right now, 2020census.gov/jobs, and click the Apply Now button. There's also information on that page, wages. The majority positions are short-term temporary, lasting anywhere from 6 to 10 weeks per operation, and we'll have anywhere from 4 to 5 to 6 operations we'll be conducting throughout New Jersey. We'll be paying $16.50 to $22 an hour, so it's a great opportunity. If you're recently retired and you just want to earn a little extra money, maybe you're not ready to be, sail off into the sunset yet. Students. It's a great job because nights and weekends are a wonderful time. If you have a full-time job and you just want to work part-time, you can be successful in working for the census.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it's also a really great strategy in reaching some of those hard-to-count populations to make sure that the people who live in those communities, if they're getting a job in the census, they can be reaching out to the folks that live where they live.
Absolutely. It's extremely important. And we say while the census is a national event, in order to be successful, it has to be conducted at the local level. We have to hire people to work in their own communities.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point and a really great transition to the local level, and talking to Secretary Way about ways that New Jersey is making sure that everyone in New Jersey gets counted and participates in the census. So can you talk to us a little bit about that, but specifically also about the New Jersey Complete Count Commission, which you're the chair of?
Yes, I have to say this is the first time ever that New Jersey has a complete count commission to address the census. So I just want to applaud the governor and the legislature for actually coming to task with that. So we are a 27 nonpartisan body. I chair it, and the makeup of the commission is very, is such that it reaches all of the constituencies which we on a local level would want to reach in terms of the completion of the count, as Jeff has mentioned. For example, there are members who represent the corporate sector. Then there are faith-based members. There are members who actually are representative of various ethnic groups, such as Native Americans who are part of that hard to count group, such as Latinx, and also African Americans. So that is the richness that the body is actually brought forth in developing this outreach strategy to ensure that there is a complete count. In New Jersey, I also have to say there are municipal and county representatives too. So as what was mentioned earlier in the program, we too have actually started our census effort by having our first public hearing, one of 3. We've already concluded all 3. Jeff testified and he actually presented, which was a good thing in educating the public. We started in January of this year, and we actually had a 1-year out, April 1st, 2019 kickoff tour throughout the state. We started off in Jersey City, and then we ended in Burlington County, just so that we could host various events. I do recall in Newark, it was a very engaging event amongst others, because the kids were involved. There was a poster contest because we all know that our children under 5 are also one of the highest undercounted groups. I believe it's about 1 million were undercounted in 2010 nationally. So we also want to engage them because they too can serve as those trusted voices within their communities and, more importantly, within their homes. So our outreach strategy really realizes a local capacity building. And what we're doing is going throughout the state, and we are helping to form these local count committees, because they too will have, or do have already set up, those various religious members throughout the communities, those who know their neighborhoods best, so they could serve as the trusted voices. And in addition to that, we will have a marketing campaign, and also we have 3 subcommittees which are speaking to education in schools and also outside of the academic arena. We have community engagement that is going on, training so that folk will be well versed on how to get the count out. And then we're also calling upon intergovernmental partners, such as our, or at least my cabinet liaison members, so that they too can get the count out in their respective specials, if you will. For example, Department of Human Services, they oversee the county social services agencies. So if we are able to coordinate with them, then they are able to tap into the population which may not be so receptive to respond, and especially they can tap into the homeless population, another hard to count group. So all of these efforts are in play. It is a true partnership. I know that my team has also worked with the 2020 Census Coalition that we have in the state. We're also cognizant that this is not only a public function, this is also a partnership with private and philanthropic entities that we're so proud that we are too speaking with and partnering with the grants makers, for example, because it's going to take a true effort across the entire board. I know we have a state complete count commission, but this is federal, and we thank Jeff and his team for all the efforts. And of course, this is our local partners that we just want to make certain that we all get out the count uniformly.
No, I think it really speaks volumes for the ability to get the message out and how much the Commission has already done and accomplished. You know, I mean, there are numerous nonprofit partners throughout New Jersey who are making it their point as well to make sure the information gets shared and talked about and all of those things, particularly around the hard-to-count population work, which I'm glad that you've both been able to speak to. If we could dig a little bit deeper in terms of that specific to New Jersey with the hard-to-count population, you mentioned Newark, and we know that sometimes the urban settings are hard to count and people might be suspicious of answering surveys and things. And so I think it's a great outreach to bring the Board of Social Service into the factory to make sure more people get informed about that. So if you could talk just a little bit about maybe some of those local things. You mentioned marketing. What types of marketing strategies might be used to make sure more people know, or that people are willing to say to their neighbor or friend, hey, you should fill out the census too, you know, sort of thing? Well,
I think, you know, given we're in 2019, we're now looking into ways to social media market. So, you know, those tools can be utilized in making certain that folk will be aware of the date for the times for completion of this. And I want to just focus and ensure that we all, you know, again, coordinate on all fronts. It's very important that we're getting the count. And in various areas, as I mentioned, in terms of my fellow colleagues. Jeff had mentioned, you know, the job fairs. I know that there are potentially other departments who could somewhat host job fairs too. So we're looking to do that. We're also looking at the idea of coordination, as Jeff had mentioned, with the library systems, because it's good that now the census can be completed online, but we have to be cognizant that there are folk who do not have access to a laptop and computer or Wi-Fi. So we really need to bring the libraries too into the fold in terms of the census completion.
That's a great resource to mention, because not everyone has a home computer or is that internet savvy. And if they want to do it online, they could seek out a library or even their senior center if there's a computer lab there, and maybe get assistance with at least getting to the website and making sure they're on the correct website.
Correct.
So again, I think this is all really important for us to share. And I did want to get back to the point of one of the hard-to-count populations specifically, and that is children under 5. And we might think, well, this is a show talking about issues for older adults. Why do we want to focus on such young children? Well, sometimes they might live with grandparents. So I don't know if either of you could speak to the issue of making sure that people who are caring for children under 5 know the importance of making sure that child gets counted and what the issues are.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. At the federal level and working with the state and the Complete Count Commission, and of course the Secretary and her staff who've been nothing short of phenomenal. We're finding those trusted voices. So for those communities where we may have the grandparents taking care of the kids, who are the trusted voices in those communities, working with the schools to reach out to the grandparents. And we're educating all these local trusted voices on the census is safe, it's easy, and it's important. And one of the things I didn't mention earlier about being safe is every piece of data that we collect is protected under federal law. So, yes, you're providing information about your grandson or granddaughter, but it cannot be used against them. We can never identify data for an individual or household. When we release our data, it's a statistical summary level, maybe at a city level, at a county level, at a congressional district level, never at a person or a household level. So we need to work we're working with doctors and and YMCA's and all the different places kids may be involved in, to get those leaders to help them to validate that, yes, the census is important, it's going to be safe, and it's going to be easy to fill out in 2020.
I'm glad that you've mentioned that, because you did also mention previously that, you know, in addition to doing the census every 10 years, throughout every year, the Census Bureau is collecting data for use in making sure that we're accurately representing who lives in our country and what services and things are needed. And, you know, as we know, statistics are very important, and we have to measure all these things in order to prove, you know, that we need services and programs. So I think it's really important that we talk about that piece of it, and that it is safe to participate in this information, whether it's the 2020 census or other collection. Just making sure that you're verifying that it is a legitimate survey and not a scam, which we want.
Exactly. And in terms of our kids, millions of federal funds go towards school lunches, which is very important. So again, I just think that we have to bring our kids into the fold with this, because I appreciated the poster contest, but what I'm also hearing in the works are various I Count books, perhaps, that could go into the schools, and not only tap into the census and importance, and then the child, of course, could go home and show whomever is their guardian, their parents, grandparents, and the like about the census, but it also can serve as a need of teaching how to count.
I think that's
exactly.
a great
Innovative,
purpose.
exactly, these innovative ways in which we can bridge the census with another effort with our kids, because census federal funds go towards asthma and prevention and treatment. And so I just think that it's of paramount importance for all of us to ensure that our children, because hearing 1 million kids nationally is undercounted, in my view, is really, it shouldn't be.
Yeah, no, I think that's...
And it's so important, because it's not like we get another chance next year. We get one chance every 10 years to get it right, and if we get an undercount across any particular group, or just the total across the state of New Jersey, it will affect us adversely for the next 10 years, so we have to get it done right.
I think that's a great end message to say, please, we have to get this right. It won't happen again for 10 years, so make sure that you participate in the census, and make sure you account for everyone under your roof, and tell your friends and your neighbors and the person sitting next to you in church that they should do it too, right?
That's right.
It's terrific. I'm so grateful for both of you sharing your time with us today, and really emphasizing the importance of the 2020 census, and I hope that our audience also gets that message and will make sure that they participate. So thank you again for sharing your time. And thank you for watching this episode of Aging Insights. For more information and to watch previous episodes, you can go to our website, which is www.njfoundationforaging.org, and click on the Aging Insights page. Aging Insights is produced by the New Jersey Foundation for Aging and is made possible by sponsors and donations from viewers like you. To become an Aging Insights sponsor, please go to our website or call us in the office at 609-421-0206. And to find out about senior services in your area, please contact your county office on aging. Their numbers can also be found on our website, or you can call the state hotline at 1-877-222-3737. Thanks for watching, and be sure to tune in next time.